My name is Sarah Anderson. I have a fraternal twin sister. When people think of twins, they tend to believe we have the same thought patterns, preferences, and everything else, but that's not the case with fraternal twins. My sister is selfish and free-spirited, while I am a passive person who always considers others and can't live my life as I please. My sister has been quite mean to me since childhood, perhaps because she doesn't like my passive nature. Despite this, I never held a grudge because we are sisters. But now, my sister has finally done something that really crossed the line. She announced that she was pregnant, despite having no desire to get married. That alone would have been fine, but the problem was with whom she was pregnant. "It's your husband's baby," she said with a laugh. Not only that, but she was 7 months pregnant, with her belly already big and round. No way. I'm 7 months pregnant too. Yes. I also have my husband's child in my belly. It's our first child after 2 years of marriage. I haven't asked about gender. Since it's our child, I was sure it would be adorable whether it was a boy or a girl. But my sister felt differently. It's a boy. After all, you have to have an heir. However, my husband's family isn't an old family, nor are they running a business. Of course, he's not the president of some company either. We're just a regular family of a salaried worker. So I thought it didn't matter whether it was a boy or a girl. I was naive. When my mother-in-law heard that the mistress was pregnant, she beamed and said, "It doesn't matter. You two are twins, after all." What does she mean it doesn't matter? Even twins have different personalities. But a wife who can only have girls is useless. My sister laughed triumphantly when she heard this and said, "That's right." Then my husband said, "If Mom says so, then we really need to have a boy." But I'm the wife here? I was too shocked to speak, but that's how I felt inside. My mother-in-law and husband seemed ready to say that since my sister's baby is a boy, divorce was a certainty. As I watched them, I thought, if it must be a boy, what will they do if a girl is born? If it's a girl, they probably won't cherish her. That would be so sad for the child. My married life with my husband wasn't very happy to begin with. Days filled with anxiety, insecurity, and worry. Simply put, nothing but anxiety. It's because I started seeing signs of another woman around my husband since our marriage. On top of that, my sister frequently visited us. Whenever I tried to ask if he was cheating, he would get furious and shout, "Can't you trust your own husband?" He was so short-tempered that it surprised me. Being with someone like that breeds anxiety. They say people who cheat tend to be kind, but that wasn't the case. So, I thought it was just his personality, not infidelity. But it was infidelity. I was betrayed. Did he not care that he betrayed me? If so, staying with this man would mean a future filled with a cocktail of anxiety and suffering. As I was thinking this, my husband delivered the final blow. "If we don't know the gender of your baby, it might be a girl. In that case, it's better to be with Mary, who is definitely having a boy. So, it's a divorce." Is he saying this with a smile? He said this with a big smile. Even though our baby is also in my belly. Smiling, beaming, and laughing like it's the best joke. "Come on, sign the divorce papers. You sure are well prepared." Well, Mary is pregnant. And she's having a boy. There's nothing to worry about. It's better to settle this quickly. There's no good in delaying it. All right, divorce it is. Reaching my limit, I picked up a pen and signed the divorce papers. I think marriage papers have brown ones. Does this mean marriage is the beginning of hell, but divorce is the start of a bright future? All right, the divorce is finalized. My husband looked so happy. He wanted the divorce that badly. If so, he should have told me about his mistress sooner. Or that he was deeply involved with my sister. I would have left him quickly. And wished him to rot in hell. By the way, since you cheated, I'll be taking alimony. Alimony? Sure, I'll give you that. Send me the bill later. I'm about to be happy, but you'll have to raise the child and it will cost you. You'll have to work while taking care of the kid, it'll be tough. But don't send the kid to foster care, raise them well. After all, it's a child from the seed I planted. Your seed, right? This child is indeed from your seed. It's very unfortunate, but it's yours. What's with the weird phrasing? I hope Mary's baby is really yours. Of course it is. Do you not understand Mary? I understand her. She's your twin sister, just like you. Oh, twins, right. But you know, we're fraternal twins. Fraternal or identical, twins are twins. My husband and mother-in-law both believe that twins are the same. Idiots. All right. I'll pack my things and leave. I can't take everything, so I'll call movers later. It won't be an immediate move. Don't take anything I bought. I'm taking the baby supplies. They were bought for this child. You can buy new things for your precious heir. You wouldn't want used items, right? Yeah, that's true. Mary's baby is the heir, after all. Leaving behind the three who were ecstatic about the heir, I returned to my parents' house. I think I endured well until I left that house. I held back my tears, fighting through the pain and frustration, and managed to leave without crying. But once I returned home, I reached my limit and burst into tears. My parents were worried and asked what happened, and when I told them everything, they were disappointed but not surprised, saying it was Mary again. Thanks to Mary, I wasn't blamed or questioned persistently for returning home. My parents sympathized with me, seeing me as the unfortunate one whose sister slept with her husband. 3 months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Though I hadn't asked the doctor, I thought it might be a girl, so I was surprised it was a boy. There's an old wives' tale that says if your belly is round, it's a girl, but it turned out to be just a myth. Regardless of whether it was a boy or a girl, the baby was my precious child. When my newborn's tiny hand grasped my finger, I felt immense happiness. Around that time, my sister Mary also gave birth in the same hospital. As expected, Mary's baby was a boy. She sent me a picture of her healthy newborn, but the photo was more surprising than I anticipated. A while after I was discharged, my ex-husband John contacted me. Hey, Sarah. Did you have the baby? Oh, John. This is unusual. Yes, I gave birth to a 8 pounds 13 ounce baby boy. I see. We had a boy too. Seems so. Mary sent me pictures. He looks healthy, which is good. Yeah, he's definitely healthy. Quite plump for a newborn. Health is the most important thing. Health is important, but... John hesitated to say something. Of course, he would. He probably didn't know what to say. So, I decided to help him out. He's a cute kid, isn't he? As expected from a mixed-race baby, with blonde hair and blue eyes. They say mixed-race kids are beautiful, and I'm excited for his future. By the way, who does he resemble more? He doesn't resemble either of them. Mary and John are both pure Asian. There's no foreign blood in either of them. You know that much? Of course, I saw the picture. It wasn't in black and white. Does your baby have blonde hair too? Of course not. What color are his eyes? Very beautiful black. And his hair? Black. Your baby has blonde hair, right? That's nice, not needing to dye it. It's rare. Why are they so different if they're from the same seed? Because you believe they're from the same seed. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said. No, seriously, what do you mean? Do you really not understand? No, I don't. I thought it was a mutation. Then just keep thinking that. No, you know something. Why did this happen? Well, since Mary is the mother, it's not surprising that a mixed baby was born. Wait, is Mary mixed? No, no. If Mary were mixed, then I should be too, right? Does that mean the child isn't mine? That's the only conclusion, isn't it? So it is. Mom said the same thing. With blonde hair and blue eyes, anyone would think so without being told. But Mary insists it's my child. Mary is quite bold to say that. But why? Mary isn't that kind of woman, is she? Why do you think that? Because you never cheated. There was never another man in your life. And? You're twins. You're the same, right? I don't understand. But I wouldn't do such a thing, unlike you. If you wouldn't, then Mary wouldn't either, right? How naive are you? This is Mary we're talking about. She could have been with other men while seeing you. You're kidding. You really don't know anything, do you? What do you mean? She's been quite free-spirited since she was young. While I thought love equals marriage, she thought love is for fun. That's her way. No way. I know of at least 10 men. If you count the ones I don't know about, who knows? She even had one-night stands when she drank. She's quite the social butterfly. Why is she so different from you if you're twins? We're not the same. Why? You're twins, so you should be the same. We're fraternal twins. Even if you're fraternal, you're still twins. You really don't get it. Mary and I have been different since we were kids. We played with different toys. She dressed like a princess and loved fashion. I read books to my dolls. She loved frilly clothes, and I preferred a t-shirt and jeans. Our food preferences were completely different. Even though you're twins? Yes, even though we're twins. Mary had a boyfriend right away in middle school, but I didn't. Isn't that because Mary is prettier? Doesn't personality matter? Personality, huh? I got a boyfriend in high school, but we never even held hands. Meanwhile, Mary lost her virginity in middle school. Oh. While Mary grew more free-spirited, I became more reserved. Why are you so different? It doesn't make sense. Aren't twins supposed to be similar? Just because we're twins doesn't mean we're the same. I see. Besides, you chose her over me, even if it meant cheating and betraying me. So, don't be so upset. But the child isn't mine, right? Mary had other relationships while she was with you. Just accept it, and it will be easier. Maybe you're the only one now. It's just a possibility. I can't accept that she was seeing others at the same time. Coming from someone who did the same, that's funny. I never did that. You don't think dating Mary while being married to me counts as doing the same thing? Oh. In the end, you did the same thing. Even so, I can't believe the child is mine. But legally, the child is yours. Hey, can you send me a picture of your baby? Sure, he's super cute. When John saw the picture I sent, he said, "He looks like me." What an obvious comment to make. Huh? You're the father, of course he looks like you. Yeah, you're right. This child is really mine. Yes, genetically he is. But legally, he's not. Why not? Because we weren't married when he was born. If you acknowledge him, he will be legally yours, but I definitely don't want that, so he's not your child. If I acknowledge him, he's mine. But acknowledging him means paying child support, right? You can't afford that on your salary. Oh. Being a parent costs money. So, this child will never be yours. But he really is my child. Don't act all high and mighty after abandoning him. I abandoned him? Yes, you did. You cheated on me, got Mary pregnant, and chose her because her baby is a boy. You abandoned this child. You needed an heir, right? I don't know what heir you're talking about in a typical salaried family, but you said a girl wouldn't do. That's laughable. Don't say that. It's too harsh. Listen, I was in more pain back then. You told me it would be better to end things quickly, made me sign the divorce papers. Compared to that pain, there's no problem with you dealing with the consequences of your choices. That's true, but I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Well, too bad. This is the result. Why did I leave you? How could I leave someone as faithful as you? Maybe because you weren't faithful. A faithless person with another faithless person, it's no wonder I got left behind. Wow, I didn't know you could be so blunt. I have no sympathy for an ex. John hung up the phone, clearly regretting our separation. But regrets come too late. I felt great after saying everything I wanted to and moved forward, focusing on raising my child. With my parents' help, I battled through the nightly cries. After a while, John contacted me again, starting with an unexpected statement. "Sarah, let's get remarried." Who is this? It's me, John. Have you lost your mind? I'm not crazy. I'm serious. Remarry me, the person you weren't even dating while married? Your mind must be broken. I'm serious. Then let me ask you. How can you remarry when you're still married? I'm going to divorce Mary. Is that already decided? No, but I plan to. If I wait until after the divorce to propose, it might be too late. Too late? It's not a disease. But you're Mary's sister, so you might start dating someone else and remarry soon. I need to mark my territory. Mark your territory? That's so rude. And there's no way I'd marry someone I'm not even dating. Then let's date. You're basically asking me to have an affair. Do you think I would? You're Mary's sister, so you can, right? How much more can you insult me? I don't do such things. And even if you divorce Mary, I will never date you. Why not? Mom says I should divorce Mary and remarry you. Really, you and your mother are both so selfish. And you insult people. Can't help it. When Mom saw your child's photo, she said he must be our grandson. Then she told me to divorce and remarry quickly. Think whatever you want, but I won't accept it. After the way we divorced, do you think I have any feelings left for you? I'm only angry at your mother too. Even if you're angry, the child over there is mine. Genetically, yes. But legally, he's not. Who cares about legalities? The genes are mine. You're the one who abandoned your child. Like I said before, you abandoned him. Then we should remarry. That's not going to happen. My parents would never accept that. But think about it. I have to see a blue-eyed kid every day. Do you know how hard that is? I can't see Mary as my wife knowing she was with another man. I get it. I feel the same way. I can't see you as my husband after you were with another woman. But I love you. At that moment, I heard my mother-in-law's voice over the phone, instructing him to say he loves me. Oh, I see. His mom is giving him lines. He thinks saying I love you will win me over. How ridiculous. He can't speak without his mother's coaching? What an idiot. I don't love you. But I love you. How much do you love me? You're the only one in the world for me. You're the only one in the world for me. Wow. You can't even talk about love without your mom's instructions. I can hear her. Oh. If you really want to remarry, you need to get a divorce first. Then ask me out. If our feelings match, maybe we can remarry. If I don't want to date you, that's the end of it, right? Does that mean you'll remarry me if I get divorced? I already told you. Listen carefully. Get a divorce, ask me out, and if our feelings match. But it's 99.9% unlikely. If you really want to remarry, you should find someone else. Someone new will be more likely to marry you and have your children. But your child is my child. Other women can have your children too. Marry a faithful woman. It's not that hard. Yeah, you're right. I don't have to fixate on you. Exactly. You'll find someone soon. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. He thanked me and hung up with a cheerful tone. Since then, he's been trying to divorce Mary and find another woman. Sometimes John would call to update me on his cheating progress. But I wasn't just listening passively. I was passing everything John told me straight to Mary. Of course, if John had told me not to talk about it, I wouldn't have. But he never once asked me to keep it quiet. After hearing this, Mary said to me, "You've got to be kidding. He's looking for another woman? I just had a baby, and now he wants to divorce me? I can't let that happen. If I lose John, I can't survive. I can't even have an affair myself. How can he have all the fun? This is outrageous." Mary was furious, and after venting her anger, she hung up, asking me to keep her updated. Then, more than 6 months passed. John called me again, crying and asking for help. "Sarah, help me. Please, help me. I can't stand this life anymore." "Oh, what's wrong? Didn't you find a new girlfriend?" "It's not that." Mary's tightening her grip on me. She reduced my allowance to $6 a day. And she only gives it to me if she has the exact change. $6 a day? That's a child's allowance. Right? Isn't it? It is, and that's why it's so amusing. And she doesn't make me lunch. I get 1 pastry a day. Sometimes, she just gives me a single slice of bread. No jam or anything. How can I eat that in front of my coworkers? Wow. But you chose her. I did, but it's too much. When my mom tries to intervene, Mary insults her so badly that my mom has stopped talking to us. Your mom? Yeah, even she can't stand up to Mary. Wow. So my mom's asking if we're really twins. We are twins. I told Mary we need a divorce, and she threatened to take alimony and child support. But it's not my child, and she was the one cheating. But she said what happened before marriage doesn't count as a reason for divorce. Oh, I see. It's not funny. I said I wouldn't pay child support for a kid that's not mine, but she said since the child was born during the marriage, I have to. Well, that's true. Why should I pay for a child that's not mine? Legally, the child is yours. Whose side is the law on? The weak. Then it's on my side. In general. But really, it's on the politician's side. So it's not on my side. Exactly. It's your own fault for cheating. I didn't cheat. You did while we were married. That's the root cause. Paying $2,000 a month in child support is too much. That's between you and her. That's impossible. I told her that clearly. She said if it's impossible, then we shouldn't divorce. I see. So, how's it going with the other woman? That's the worst part. Mary has some kind of sixth sense. Every time I try to cheat, she finds out. She goes to the woman's place and screams at her. So, the woman ends up breaking up with me, saying she can't deal with such a scary wife. So, you get dumped. Exactly. How does she always know? Who knows? Hey, you're her sister. Can't you do something about it? You chose her. It's your fault for not seeing what she was like before marriage. Don't say that. Help me. Every day, I see that kid's face and it kills me. It's not my child, so why do I have to work and feed him? It's unbearable. My mom keeps asking why I haven't divorced yet. I'm going crazy. Please, help me. No. Don't say that. You brought this on yourself. It's called karma for cheating. This is hell. Did I really do something that bad? John kept repeating himself, and I let him talk while ignoring him. He kept calling with the same complaints until one day, his tone was different. What's up with this tone? His voice sounded unusual. Actually, Mary. Did she divorce you? No, she left. That sounds like Mary. What about the kid? She found another man. I don't know when. She left a signed divorce paper and said she wouldn't pay alimony or child support, so she left the kid. What a woman. Poor kid, but it's better than being raised by her. I see. That's tough. Yeah, I woke up to find Mary gone and the kid left behind. How am I supposed to raise him? It's cruel for the kid to be without a mother. Why not contact Mary? I tried, but she's unreachable. Do you know where she might be? No idea. She has a wide network. I see. My mom's been yelling nonstop since morning, calling Mary all sorts of names. Well, she kind of deserves it. But he's your kid too. And your mom's grandson. You two need to work together to raise him. Mom says she's too old to raise a child. Unbelievable. His mother isn't any better. Why don't you come back and take care of the kid? No way. Please, help me. No. Why is everyone so cold to me? A while later, even his mother left him. They initially tried to raise the baby together, but she ran away, saying she couldn't love a child with foreign blood. John had to raise the child alone, and then came a hefty bill. It turned out Mary had maxed out a card loan out of spite before leaving. John ended up with debt and had to take care of the child, which affected his work, and eventually, he was fired. Desperate, he sought help from me, but I had no obligation to help an ex. In the end, John chose to place the child in an institution. The blue-eyed, beautiful boy was quickly adopted by a wealthy family and now lives a luxurious and happy life. In contrast, John lost his job, income, and wandered in search of a woman to save him, ultimately contracting a serious illness and spending his remaining days in fear for his life. As for me, I live happily with my beloved child and parents, enjoying every moment of how wonderful it is to have such a lovely child. Get out, I'm moving in with my fiancé. Nora declared triumphantly out of the blue, leaving me momentarily speechless with my mouth agape. What? I wondered how to respond, while Tom stood beside me, equally stunned. We'll take care of the loan, it's $1,200 a month. Ken added, his voice tinged with laughter, which thankfully kick-started my rational thinking. I said, then I'll leave, thinking the loan is $12,000. I replied, struggling to suppress my laughter, without voicing my inner thoughts. Watching Nora and Ken laughing and saying serves you right, I calmly analyzed the two in my mind. Poor things, they're done for. I thought as the two high-fived, while only Tom grew pale. Foreseeing the future but unable to change it. I gently patted Tom's back, consoling him. What else could be done? One must take responsibility for their words. My name is Yvonne, and I'm 59 years old. Working as a freelance consultant. I also earn income as an affiliate marketer, making no less than $20,000 a month. Of course, reaching this point wasn't easy, it took many trials and errors. My journey to freelancing and affiliate marketing began with my father's care. Since my parents' divorce when I was 7, my dad raised me alone. Wanting to repay him, I sought a job I could do from home to be near him, as he couldn't even go to the bathroom by himself. I chose freelancing for its flexible hours. While I was out, a helper would come over, and I'd take my dad to the hospital, pushing his wheelchair. I cherished our casual conversations and the scenery we shared on those trips. My dad passed away 8 years ago, but I continued my consulting and affiliate marketing work. I met my 60-year-old husband, Tom, through my consulting. Tom, who runs a small company, was originally my client. Tom, who worked harder than anyone else for the sake of his company and employees, found that despite his efforts, the business was deteriorating. Competent employees left, and despite his hard work, performance didn't improve. Lost and fearing for his employees' futures, he sought my help. While there were various minor reasons, one major cause was Tom's excessive kindness. Not all employees were inspired to work harder by seeing Tom, who worked more than anyone else. Some employees thought they could take it easy, and there were even those who mocked the hard-working president. Employees introduced by acquaintances or business partners, despite frequently slacking off or being absent without notice, were not dismissed. Instead, there were repeated attempts at discussion under the belief that talking it over would lead to improvement. Over time, this situation created a vicious cycle where the hard-working employees developed resentment, leading to the departure of competent personnel. Tom would also wait endlessly for payments from struggling partners, ironically leading to salary issues for his employees. While it might be appreciated by business partners, it's counterproductive if it leads to a situation where the company cannot pay its employees' salaries. The employees also have families to support. It seemed inevitable that employees, feeling uncertain about the company's future, would start leaving the job. I had to make Tom understand that his employees had families too, and their futures depended on his decisions. He needed to make the right choices as a business owner. From then on, Tom became stricter with employees who slacked off or missed work without notice, and set clear deadlines for delinquent clients, insisting on payment without further delay. This was all to protect his precious employees and their families. If it meant safeguarding them, Tom wouldn't hesitate to spend money on a lawyer. Tom might have seemed a bit unreliable as a president, but I admired his humanity. We started going out for meals, where I learned his wife had passed away over a decade ago due to illness. And naturally, our conversations turned to how my father raised me alone. These outings gradually became our healing time. After dating for about 2 years, Tom proposed to me 6 years ago. I met his daughter, Nora, after the proposal. She was 21 and in college at the time. She was enjoying her carefree student life. "Are you after Dad's money or what?" That was Nora's response when Tom introduced me. "Excuse me?" I replied, perplexed by her suspicious look and obvious distaste. Maybe Nora felt like I was taking her father away. Or perhaps there had been women around Tom before who seemed to be after his money. "What nonsense!" Tom started to scold her, but Nora turned away, refusing to listen. I let out a small sigh and explained I wasn't after his money. "If you don't believe me, ask your dad to write a will. Everything goes to the daughter." "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that." I never expected her to call me Mom. Or to replace her late mother. But this was a problem beyond that. Reluctantly, Nora consented to our marriage. I later found out Tom was incredibly indulgent with Nora. He'd give her money whenever she asked. And buy her whatever she wants. "Aren't you spoiling her a bit too much?" I'd say, and Tom would scratch his head, saying, "Sorry. I guess." After her mom passed, I felt she was lonely. And when the company was in trouble, she had to endure financial hardships too. I understood his feelings, but this was creating a daughter reliant on her father. With my own experience in mind, I wondered if I should intervene. But then I thought, Nora's habit of quitting jobs quickly probably stemmed from knowing she could always rely on her dad. Anyway, think about what's really best for your daughter. At this rate, she'll just keep quitting jobs after college. Tom pondered my words. Perhaps realizing this couldn't continue. So he made a proposal to Nora. He'd only give her an allowance until she graduated college, then no more gifts except for birthdays and Christmas. The money she earned from working could be all hers. Huh. Nora initially looked dissatisfied, but after talking with friends, she realized it was a fair deal. Some people, once they start working, might even live on their own. There are probably people who contribute financially to their households as well. Living at home, Nora could spend all the money she earned any way she liked. Got it. So, it's business as usual until I graduate from college, right? She perked up and took full advantage of Tom's generosity for the next year and a half. Now, Nora is 27. As promised, she's been using her salary for herself, not contributing to the household. She doesn't quit jobs like she did in college, probably because she knows she'd lose her spending money. However, her selfish nature hasn't changed, and she never warmed up to me. She's convinced I married Tom for financial ease. This was 3 years ago when Nora was 24. When Tom told her about my new house, she frowned skeptically. What, some cheap place in the sticks? Commutable? She laughed dismissively. Or is it even fit for living? I never told Nora about my monthly income of over $20,000. Luckily, she's indifferent to me and, although she knows I work from home, never asked about my earnings. It's hardly the sticks, I replied. It might even make commuting easier. I've always dreamed of a spacious new house. When I showed her the 7-bedroom house plan and exterior photo, close to the station, even Nora exclaimed, "Wow, that's amazing." Dad really splurged, huh? No, I didn't buy it. But he must have chipped in, right? She looked at me with disbelief, as if such a nice, large house was beyond my means. I could only sigh at her constant attitude. I think it was right after we moved in. Returning from a consulting job, I stopped by a cafe I happened to see. While reading a paperback and sipping coffee, I heard a commotion. I looked up, recognizing the familiar voice, and saw Nora at a nearby table. She was unaware of me behind her. On a date, perhaps? A young man about her age sat opposite her. You're working and can't even take me out to dinner? What kind of boyfriend are you? She berated him loudly, expecting him to pay for dinner as a gift. The other customers glanced over, wondering what was happening. The young man, unlike Nora, seemed calm. After he said something, Nora splashed water on him and stormed out of the cafe. Hey! I quickly got up and offered the young man a handkerchief. He looked back, surprised, as I apologized. I'm so sorry for Nora's rude behavior. When I introduced myself as Nora's mother, the young man exclaimed, "Oh," and then scratched his wet head, saying, "Sorry you had to see that embarrassing moment." He is John, a year older than Nora at 25. He met her at a mixer. He was caring for his parents. That's quite young to be taking on such responsibility. Yeah, I was a late child for my parents. It must be tough caring for both parents, I said, then quickly apologized for my possibly intrusive comment. I'm sorry. I took care of my father too, so I understand some of the difficulties. John assured me it was okay, admitting that he sometimes felt overwhelmed, wishing he could hang out more like his friends. I actually do find it tough sometimes. I often wish I could hang out and have fun like the others around me. The mixer that John attended was apparently organized by his friends as a way to cheer him up and provide a distraction. He'd gone to the mixer for a break, never intending to date anyone, but Nora pursued him relentlessly. Nora is fun to be with, but I don't have much money. He cares for his parents and accompanies them to the hospital during the day, and works night shifts 4 days a week. Money was tight, he said. I see. Today, I couldn't pay the water bill and asked the company if they could wait until payday. Nora overheard and dumped me, saying she can't be with a poor man. I felt tears well up as John laughed it off. I'm truly sorry for her rudeness. She just didn't understand the hardships of caring for parents. I was feeling a mix of regret and anger. Remembering my own experience with my father's care, I offered to help John by introducing him to a job he could do from home. 3 years later, Nora brought home a young man she wanted to marry. Personally, I thought John, with his kind nature, would have been a better match, but Nora's fiancé, Ken, wasn't bad looking either. Introduced through a dating app. Ken, who works in the administrative department of a company, was asked by Tom if he enjoys his job. However, Ken's response was primarily complaints about his boss, colleagues, and the company itself. Ken just got unlucky with his company. Nora chimed in, and Ken laughed, yeah, right? If things get tough, you can always work at Dad's company. That'd be great, thanks. They said, already taking it for granted. Tom and I could only exchange wry smiles. We were sensing that Ken would likely be dissatisfied anywhere he worked. It's likely that some form of dissatisfaction or complaint would emerge. So, that's why. Nora suddenly clapped her hands and grinned at me. I'm moving in with my fiancé, so you need to move out. Her triumphant declaration left me speechless for a moment. What? I wondered how to respond, while Tom stood beside me, equally stunned. We'll take care of the loan, it's $1,200 a month. Ken's laughter made my thoughts clear again. Oh, right, that time. I remember, a few months ago. Nora saw the loan statement I'd left on the table while organizing my drawers. Is that what the loan on this house is? I felt a bit of discomfort hearing this. It seemed odd. Little did I know she'd misread the amount. I said, then I'll leave, thinking the loan is $120,000. I replied, holding back laughter. And began using my phone. But just so you know, even if we change the ownership, I doubt you can restructure the loan. If Nora and Ken can't pay, the house will have to be sold, and the remainder paid in full. Is that okay? Sure, no problem. Nora replied, almost mockingly. I nodded. And if the house sells for less than the remaining loan, the difference will be charged to Nora, the new owner. Is that all right? Yep. Totally fine. Then, there's no issue from my side. I made Nora write a pledge. Take that. Watching her and Ken laugh, I calmly analyzed them. Poor things, they're done for. A little thought would reveal that a spacious house close to the station couldn't possibly be bought for a $1,200 monthly loan. If I were Ken, I'd certainly ask to see the document with the loan amount, just to be safe. While Nora and Ken high-fived, Tom turned pale. Foreseeing the future but helpless to change it. I patted Tom's back consolingly. What can you do? One has to take responsibility for their words. After Ken left, I started packing in my room when Tom came in. What should I do? Caught between his daughter and wife, Tom was at a loss. Glancing at him briefly, then focusing back on my packing, I replied. Just do what you think is best. I added, but personally, I can't live with Nora anymore. She's too selfish. I truly thought Tom should do what he liked. If he stayed and wanted to support Nora, she and Ken could probably pay the house loan. Not just them, but with Tom's income, all three could manage. If Tom thought that was best, then so be it. I opposed the idea, but once the ownership changed to Nora, it wasn't my concern anymore. Over a few months, I found a new house and changed the house ownership to Nora. Meanwhile, Tom came to my room again. Tom sat down formally in front of me, bowed his head, and offered an envelope full of cash. This is for your consulting fee. I'd like to formally request your services. A request? For what? Tom replied, for advice on the actions I should take. His expression was just like when he first came to me for business advice. He wanted to truly protect his daughter, and needed guidance on what to do. I'm embarrassed to admit, but when it comes to family matters, I can't seem to make a calm decision. So, I need an outsider's perspective on the right course of action. His formal tone indicated his serious commitment. Are you sure you want to ask me? I might say some harsh things that are hard for a father to hear. Yes, I understand. But if things continue as they are, it's not just bad for her, it's harmful. He showed his resolve. I straightened up, feeling his determination. I accept your request. I suggested that Tom should also move out of the house. And that no matter how much Nora pleaded, he should never give her money. I told him about the incident with John and Nora 3 years ago. Nora did something that terrible? Tom was shocked and speechless. Yes. If things go on like this, Nora will become the worst kind of person. The responsibility lies not only with her but with us too, for raising her this way. That's true. This is a turning point for Nora and us. If we really care about her, we must be prepared to let her hit rock bottom. Tom took my words to heart and nodded. We decided to move out together and buy an apartment, putting it under both our names and sharing the mortgage. It was a 2-bedroom apartment a bit far from the station. Cheaper and with a shorter loan period than our previous house. Perfect for the two of us. But within a month, Nora and Ken burst in, furious.
What's this about a $12,000 monthly mortgage payment?
Nora yelled as she entered. Ken, confrontational, demanded, explain yourselves. Well, that's the amount we've always paid. Don't lie. Nora slammed the table.
Where would you get that kind of money?
Whether you believe it or not, the bill says so. We need you to pay it as a matter of fact.
What?
Nora turned to Tom, pointing at me.
Dad! Break up with this woman right now!
Nora demanded. Tom, without a word, solemnly shook his head.
What?
Nora was taken aback, trembling in disbelief.
I'll have nowhere to live if this continues.
She tried to sway Tom with her tears.
What should I do, Dad?
Clearly, she was convinced that Tom would give in and provide financial support. However, Tom firmly refused. The house is in your name now, Nora. It's your responsibility for not checking the payment amount. This was probably the first time Tom had been so distant with Nora. He had always tried to fulfill his role as a father. You're an adult now. Everything you do, good or bad, comes back to you.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my dad. Right, Dad?
Nora turned to Tom with a forced smile, which quickly faltered as she saw his unyielding expression.
Wait, what's wrong, Dad?
Her face turned to despair. Ken, further cornering Nora, added.
I knew something was off. Such a nice house for only $1,200 a month. We've been tricked.
Glaring at Nora, he accused.
Are you some kind of marriage scammer? No, that's not.
Shocked by Ken's words, Nora's tears flowed.
I'm calling off the engagement.
Ken stormed out, leaving Nora alone.
This is all your fault.
Nora's anger irrationally turned towards me. What are you going to do about this? She lunged at me, but Tom intervened.
Dad! I won't be demanding anymore, just...
As she clung to his arm, Tom pushed her hand away. This is the house you took from your mother. You figure it out.
Ugh, this woman.
Nora must have been deeply frustrated. She wiped her tears with her sleeve, viewing me as the enemy until the end.
You're not my mother,
she declared and left our apartment. Unable to pay the $120,000 mortgage, Nora was forced to sell the house as agreed. But setting a high price, the sale dragged on, increasing the mortgage debt. Panicked, Nora lowered the price to what the real estate agent suggested and finally sold the house. The house sold for less than the remaining mortgage, so I hired a lawyer to ensure Nora paid according to the pledge she had signed. I had recorded our conversation on my phone when she agreed to pay, so the claim against Nora went smoothly. Whether she could pay easily was another matter. After breaking up with Ken, Nora moved into a rental apartment and started paying me monthly. But it was clear that maintaining her lifestyle while making these payments was going to be a stretch. Soon enough, she seemed to be struggling financially. One day, we had guests at our home. We were entertaining a young couple who had come to announce their engagement, chatting in the living room with Tom. Suddenly, the doorbell rang loudly, and Nora barged in uninvited. Despite being told we had guests, she stormed into the living room, ignoring the couple and pleading desperately with Tom.
Dad, Yvonne, I'm at my limit. I couldn't even make my utility payments yesterday.
At 27, she sat on the living room floor, crying loudly. Tom and I exchanged glances, and the young couple looked bewildered.
All my utilities will be cut off.
Nora sobbed like a child. The young man from the couple spoke up. If it's just a missed payment, they won't cut off your utilities right away. Recognizing the voice, Nora stopped crying and slowly looked up.
John?
Long time no see, Nora, John said with a gentle smile. Nora, perhaps feeling nostalgic or reassured, started crying again. We managed to get her seated in a chair.
Why is John here?
She asked through tears. I began explaining. Well, 3 years ago, I was in the same cafe where you and John were breaking up.
What? It was just a coincidence. It's thanks to Yvonne that I am where I am today.
Nora sat there, mouth agape. She was not fully understanding. But I continued.
Remember how you used to ask where I got all my money from? Actually, I've been working as a freelance consultant and doing affiliate marketing.
I told her I started before marrying Tom and that my income was quite substantial.
More than your father. What?
Nora gasped in shock, biting her lower lip in frustration.
Why didn't you tell me? You must have found it funny, watching me make a fool of myself.
Yes, I did. I replied honestly. I didn't actually find Nora's situation funny, but I guess that's what she thought of herself now.
Remember? Back then, I didn't have much money, right? Yvonne told me about some work-from-home side jobs.
Luckily, his company allowed side jobs. I had suggested affiliate marketing through blogging and web writing. Affiliate marketing takes time to generate income, but once it starts, it can lead to significant earnings. As for web writing, many people write emails and are exposed to web content regularly. John, who also read novels in his spare time while caregiving, seemed a good fit for trying his hand at scenario writing.
3 years since I started, and thanks to persisting, my income has increased a lot.
John said, smiling. Enough to get married.
Oh, the tables have turned since then.
I mused. It's strange how things work out. The one who used to complain about not being treated to dinner was now struggling with utility bills, while the one who asked for more time to pay was now well off. All in just 3 years. Tomorrow's troubles are today's worries. A phrase that Nora might be feeling the most right now.
Now, I could take you out to dinner any time, buy you clothes, bags, anything you want.
John said gently. Nora clutched his hand tightly.
Then, John, let's start over, be together again.
Suddenly, John's expression turned cold. He brushed off Nora's hand.
That's why it won't work with you. What?
Nora looked shocked. John looked down on her with disgust.
I have money now, but I'm still taking care of my parents. Can you help? Are you willing to change my parents' diapers? What? No, why should I do that?
See, John said softly, placing his hand on the back of his fiancé seated next to him.
She said she'd help me with the caregiving.
John smiled at his fiancé.
I don't expect anyone I date to help with my parents' care, but it shows the character of both women.
I commented. John nodded, agreeing.
Yes, it felt like a difference in human quality to me.
Nora banged the table in frustration.
Enough! I didn't come here to be ridiculed.
Her voice trembled, holding back tears.
Right, we were talking about your utility bills.
John said casually. He explained to Nora that missing a direct debit doesn't lead to immediate service termination.
They'll send you a bill, and they always give notice before stopping services. They tell you when you need to pay by to avoid disconnection. Oh, really?
Even after being helped, Nora couldn't muster a word of thanks. John smiled at her.
I'm glad my embarrassing experience could be of help to Nora. Do your best to manage the payments on your own.
He added, his words laced with sarcasm, which even Nora seemed to pick up on. John's and Tom's words made Nora cry even harder. Amidst everyone's stares, she lamented, why?
Why won't anyone help me?
The answer was something she'd have to realize herself. No matter what anyone said, she wouldn't notice. John stopped his fiancée from offering a handkerchief to Nora. He was silently shaking his head. Nora would likely reject it. And it would only make his fiancé feel bad. We all watched Nora cry louder, feeling pity but remaining silent. Eventually, Nora moved from her luxurious apartment to a simpler 2-bedroom apartment. She started living more modestly. Not buying branded items anymore. Probably because she couldn't afford them. She used the bags and clothes Tom had bought her in the past more carefully now. Despite her complaints about cockroaches and thin walls, she diligently paid back the money each month. Tom, feeling sorry for her, still chose not to offer any financial help, continuing to watch over her. I believe that being strict can also be a form of parental love. Not indulging in misplaced sympathy or pity can actually benefit Nora. John and his fiancé got married successfully. It was touching to see his parents, attending in wheelchairs, smiling happily. As for me, I'm still happily living with Tom. Continuing my work as a consultant. Accepting criticism and improving oneself is essential. This humble and flexible approach can expand both companies and individuals. I'm living by this belief every day, striving to continue in the same vein. You totally fooled me, Mary. I never expected you to be infertile. I don't need a wife who can't have kids. So, I'm gonna remarry a new wife. This is what my husband Sean suddenly blurted out as he took me to his parents' house over the weekend. I thought only my mother-in-law would be there today, but there was a young woman next to Sean. He brought this so-called new wife to his parents' house. As unbelievable as that was, the woman said something even more outrageous. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Lynn. Actually, I'm pregnant. She didn't seem at all remorseful. And Sean was just grinning. The situation was truly unbelievable. My mother-in-law, who had been watching us, spoke up. So, Mary, would you please get a divorce quickly? Don't make my son suffer any longer. She was on Sean's side. That's when I retorted. Oh? You want a divorce right away? But we're already divorced? What? Already divorced? Are you just being a sore loser? Sean said mockingly. But this wasn't about being a sore loser. I already knew everything. And that Sean had overlooked something critical. I had to make him regret it for the rest of his life. I'll definitely make him pay. Sean, you forgot, didn't you? Every time I showed a hint of defiance, you threatened me with divorce papers, saying if I didn't obey, it's over. I reflected on that. A good wife wouldn't go against her husband's wishes. So, as you wanted, I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce process the other day. Your part was already filled out on the paper, so it's in process. What? When did you do that? You were always indecisive and under my thumb. Sean stammered, biting his nails. That was a habit he had when anxious, dating back to when we were dating. Lynn gently put her hand on his shoulder, turning to him with a smile like a goddess. Suddenly, Sean's face brightened, and he leaned back towards me. Well, you finally did something right. Now I don't have to bother going out to file them. This makes me officially single. I'll remarry Lynn right away. Lynn's eyes welled up, and she blinked excitedly. I almost laughed through my nose at that. Then my mother-in-law stepped forward, arms crossed, and snorted. For someone who can't have kids and is useless, you did something right. So, can you pack your stuff and leave? I always thought you were out of Sean's league. He's an elite worker at a well-known large company. Someone plain and mediocre like you is no match for him, like comparing chalk and cheese. She started bragging about Sean without being asked. How many times have I heard this since we got married? The first time, I had to listen for over an hour. Her nagging was no less than Sean's. I wish this mother and son wouldn't compete in such matters. Just the other day, the CEO personally praised him. He's definitely on the fast track now. That's my Sean. So, don't show your face to us again. It feels refreshing to cut ties with a failure like you. Like mother, like son, huh? As my mother-in-law's chatter finally wound down, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. My mother-in-law, Sean, and Lynn all stared with their mouths agape. Hey, Mary. Has the shock made your brain useless too? Come on, get a grip. It's embarrassing for me if people find out I was married to someone crazy, even for a short while. Relax. The ones with the messed up heads are you guys. Sean and your mom are so good at finding faults in others but totally blind to secrets. Let me enlighten you. Finally, Sean looked puzzled. Good, he should be more interested. This is where it gets interesting. Lynn is already married, you know. Silence enveloped the room. Sean was the first to laugh. What a story. You disappoint me, Mary. I thought you were smarter than this. Yeah, it's foolish to make up such obvious lies when you're desperate and out of options. It's fitting for you, I guess. Lynn, feeling victorious, wrapped her arms around Sean's arm and snuggled up to him. I could see Sean's nostrils flare at the soft touch of her skin. It was utterly revolting. She's just jealous because she's infertile. Don't be too hard on her. It's pitiful, isn't it? She couldn't have kids and was dumped by her beloved. Oh, Lynn. How compassionate you are. Carrying new life in you and still caring for such a spiteful woman. Marrying you is the greatest joy of my life. What a noble love between a man and a woman. This is what an ideal couple looks like. Mary, you should see this love that you'll never have. You should learn from Lynn. Sean dabbed his eyes, and my mother-in-law, who had somehow produced a frilly lace handkerchief, was wiping her tears. Cheap tears, I thought, half closing my eyes as I watched them. I don't know what you're getting emotional about, but I'm not interested in dragging this farce out. Take a look at this. What's this? Interrupting her moment with some piece of paper. What's the big deal about this? What's wrong, Lynn? Why have you frozen up? What does this paper say, male infertility? What? What does that mean? Let me see. Where had the image of the three of them, who until just moments ago were huddled together in harmony, gone? The trio was now fighting over a single sheet of paper. The paper crumpled from their handling now. This paper, as you can see, is an infertility test result. The reason Sean and I couldn't have kids wasn't because of me, but Sean. I had asked my husband to cooperate with me when I started infertility treatments. Such things are meaningful only when done together as a couple. But Sean outright refused to cooperate, blaming me for the infertility. I managed to get a sample from him through various means and submitted it right away. The results are as you see. I waved another piece of paper in my hand as I explained. It was my test result. It read no issues. The three of them turned pale. Why didn't you say anything until now? You should have told me right away when you found out. That's why you're a failure. Don't take it out on me because you're shocked. I never wanted to reveal it in front of others. But you made me. I shook my head in a what-can-you-do manner. Right when the results came, you started working overtime, going out, ignoring my calls and emails. How was I supposed to tell someone who's hardly ever home? Did you know about Lynn from the beginning? My mother-in-law asked, looking terrified, so I smiled kindly. Yes, of course. Even a fool would notice when you suddenly stop coming home. Once I started suspecting, I had to investigate thoroughly. It was interesting, like a drama, uncovering all the hidden facts. My mother-in-law collapsed weakly onto the floor. My husband Sean stood motionless, staring at me like a statue, mouth agape. I kept a smile on my face and clapped my hands together loudly. Well, now one truth has come to light. Let's summarize. First, Sean and your mom thought I was infertile. During this time, Sean's mistress, Lynn, got pregnant. Both of you were overjoyed and pressured me to divorce, welcoming Lynn as the new wife. I walked slowly around the room while talking. Every time my slippers scraped against the floor, I could tell each of them held their breath. However, now it's revealed that Sean is infertile. Here's the question. If Sean is infertile, whose baby is Lynn carrying? Sean and his mother silently turned to look at Lynn. Her eyes, which were bright and gleaming when I first arrived, now lost their luster, looking flat and dull. A bead of sweat trickled down Lynn's forehead. Her lips, tightly pressed, trembled slightly, and her nervously tapping fingers betrayed her composed posture. My mouth curled up slightly, admitting to myself that I felt a small sense of victory. But Lynn, capable of adultery, was different. Her mind must be wired differently from ordinary people. In a not-so-normal way. Lynn forced a smile as wide as possible. Where's the proof that this test result is real? Sean and his mother turned to me, startled. Perhaps still having the energy to fight back. What a waste of energy. Lynn stood up straighter, puffing out her chest, confronting me confidently. The core of your claim is that piece of paper saying Sean is infertile, right? It's not directly from a doctor, so it could be considered fake, couldn't it? If Sean's infertility is denied, then the child in my belly is genuinely mine and Sean's. You'll take responsibility for accusing me of being married. I thought to myself, if witches existed, they would laugh like this. Narrowing their eyes into crescents and smiling unnaturally with their bright white teeth. Lynn must have deceived and trapped people before. No choice then. I shrugged, and Lynn's smile deepened clearly. Sean and his mother's eyes lit up with hope. I bent down. All three leaned forward in anticipation. Then I reached out my hand. There was a small card on the flooring. I picked it up and handed it to Lynn with a smile. It must have fallen out when I walked around the room. Lynn looked puzzled, but her face changed as soon as she turned it over and saw the written side. Lynn, what's wrong? You're as pale as a ghost. Are you feeling unwell? Sean asked with concern. Without a word, Lynn showed him the card. It read John Doe. Sean fell back in shock. His face rapidly turned pale. Hey, what's going on here? My mother-in-law asked, still not grasping the significance of the name on the card, which she almost snatched from Sean's hand. FCU Director John Doe. Isn't FCU where Sean works? What's Lynn's connection with the company's president? You're asking me to spell out something you already know? You really want to escape reality, don't you? Well, I'll make it clear for you. John Doe is Lynn's husband. My mother-in-law fell to her knees with force. Her whole body shook violently. No, this can't be true. Sean having an affair with the president's wife. If this gets out, Sean will. I know, we just won't tell anyone. She jumped up, grabbed me by the collar. I was a bit taken aback by her sudden aggression. Mary, if you want alimony, I'll pay it. Just keep this a secret between us. Oh, I've already reported the affair. What did you say? You failed. No, it can't be true. It has to be a lie. This can't be happening, it just can't. The room erupted into chaos. I looked towards the window. It was slightly open. This must be echoing throughout the neighborhood. I smirked to myself. Wait. Yes, John Doe is my husband, but the baby in my belly. Lynn was still trying to cover her lies, even now. Her face was covered in sweat, her makeup a mess. I cut her off mid-sentence, closing off her last escape route. It's Mr. Doe's child, right? No mistake about it. It's been confirmed with Mr. Doe's cooperation. How did you do it? I don't remember anything. Didn't Mr. Doe ask you to give a blood sample? He did say something about checking my health just to be safe. Lynn looked confused. The radiant impression she had when she first entered was gone, and she seemed to have aged 10 years in just a short time. Nowadays, they can do prenatal paternity tests with the mother's blood and the father's buccal cells. With these, paternity can be confirmed before birth. No way! You prepared all that! Finally, Lynn collapsed to the floor. Her neatly combed hair was now disheveled. The three of them were in a state of shock, finally grasping the situation. I stood with my hands on my hips, breathing out in satisfaction. Then Sean started mumbling something. I couldn't make out the words, but his expression wasn't good. I braced myself, ready for battle, as Sean suddenly looked up and yelled. Are you kidding me? After whispering sweet nothings, it was all lies? What were you thinking, having an affair with someone from your spouse's company? You're so outrageous. My husband Sean wasn't berating me, but Lynn instead. Lynn, who had been sitting powerlessly, suddenly regained her vigor. Ever heard the saying, no rose without a thorn? You got a taste of something sweet and took it seriously, silly you. Lynn retorted with a dismissive tone. Sean's frown deepened. Oh, are you angry?
You've got such high pride for nothing. That's why you're so easy to handle. You never thought you were just being played with, obediently doing as told, just like a pet. What did you say? Who do you think you're talking to?
Lynn finally stood up, advancing to within inches of Sean's face. His slight retreat betrayed the intensity of her gaze.
Listen, it's because of your failure that our affair was exposed. Who are you glaring at? I'm the wife of the president, you know? My sublime pleasure was ruined by a foolish employee like you, and I'm very angry.
Sean took a few steps back and forced a dry smile.
So, that's your true nature.
I see it now. He walked past Lynn and stood in front of me, then suddenly grabbed my hand.
Mary, I've finally seen the light. It was a detour, but I've found true love.
You're the only one for me. Suddenly, his lips were hurtling towards mine at an alarming speed. Instinctively feeling terror, I narrowly dodged. Without hesitation, I kicked him in the groin and backed away to the corner of the room. My back was instantly soaked with sweat. Sean groaned in pain but kept calling my name. My mother-in-law, hearing the words true love, sparkled with excitement, fervently defending Sean's plea for reconciliation.
Sean, realizing your true feelings is admirable. Just one more push, Mary. There's no man more elite and wonderful than Sean.
I reached my limit. I turned to my mother-in-law, who was sending an adoring gaze at her son.
You both said it earlier. A person who can't have children is useless, right? I don't think that way, but by that definition, Sean is useless, isn't he?
Her sparkling eyes dimmed instantly. She awkwardly lowered her gaze and shrunk in on herself. That should stop her fanciful talk. As for Sean, he was frozen solid. Probably the first time anyone's ever called him useless. He must have always been praised by everyone, especially adults, for being capable. But that's not enough. It's about how and where you apply those skills. It depends on one's morals. It seems Sean lacked those from the start. I looked at him one last time, making sure to keep a safe distance.
You were scolding Lynn for deceiving you, but you deceived me too, so you're not in a position to complain. What goes around comes around.
My icy gaze brought Sean back to reality. He reached out his hand desperately, still in pain, but I had no intention of taking it. It was too late for everything.
Do you understand now how it feels to be called useless?
As I gave my husband Sean a full-faced smile, he stumbled but came to me, apologizing.
I'm sorry, Mary. It was all my fault. Can you forgive me just this once? I promise to change. They say cheating is a disease, right? It's not that easy to cure. Why would I, now a stranger to you, patiently deal with such an illness?
With those words, I finally left my in-laws' house, without looking back once. Afterward, Sean faced demands for compensation from both me and the company president and was fired from his job for ethical reasons. For a while, he maintained his elite pride and behaved arrogantly at home as if nothing had changed. However, unable to manage household chores and missing my regular, disciplined lifestyle, his life quickly turned into a mess. He was constantly at odds with his once close mother. After the president spread the word about Sean's actions within the industry, his job search went nowhere. His debts kept increasing, and eventually, he came to me for help again. Of course, I flatly refused. Now, he's barely making ends meet by juggling low-paying part-time jobs just to pay off his debts. As for Lynn, the president didn't blame her excessively during her pregnancy, not wanting anything to happen to the baby. So, she deluded herself into thinking she was forgiven. She lived a lavish life as the president's wife, but that only lasted until the baby was born. Soon after the birth, the president took the baby away, leaving Lynn with plans to divorce and evict her as soon as she recovered. At night, hysterical cries could be heard from her house. Meanwhile, I found a job and started a comfortable life living alone. A life without anyone attacking me was utterly stress-free. Eventually, I remarried someone I met through work. The following year, I joyfully embraced my long-awaited child. The tiny life was more adorable than I could have imagined, and I vowed to dedicate everything to make this child happy.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their inn. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.